Jack. Thank you for being here and welcome back to Queen's. I'll just throw it to the floor to start off with questions.
Hi Jack, did you just tell us where did you watch the French Open last Sunday and how much did you see of it?
I didn't watch the first 2 sets. I watched it in my flat. I watched the last 3 sets there. Unbelievable tennis. I think it inspired all the players, and I think it captured the attention of all the spectators, all the people around the world, even people who aren't into tennis. It was one of those sporting moments I think everyone was embraced by. So I think Yannick and Carlos, did an unbelievable show there. Shame someone had to lose, but that's the nature of sport. But I think tennis won for sure.
That level was so high.
Yeah.
Do you think you can get to that level? Do you think as a competitor I can close that? Because they were playing tennis off a different planet at times, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. I think, the tennis they were playing, that was, I think, the combination of them two together. I think it was the moment they were in. I think my friend said to me when they were watching them play, like, do you think, how are they playing this way in this moment, after 5 hours or something like that? And I said, I don't think they're thinking about anything. I think they're just thinking about playing. So I think, I don't know what I'm capable of yet, but I aspire to be at that level. And I think what those guys are doing is setting the way and it's changing the game. And I think that, players like myself are going to be working very hard to get to that point. That's 100% for sure.
Jack, you obviously would have liked to go deeper at the French, but losing at the halfway stage, did that in some ways aid the preparations for getting ready for grass? And what have you been doing and how has it gone?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I was very frustrated, a little bit upset with the way it ended at the French. But I think I look back on my on my clay court season as a whole, and for someone who hasn't done that well on the clay, I thought I embraced the surface very well. I thought I improved a lot on it. I didn't play my best at the French. Obviously, went out against Bublik, and I take the lessons from that. I think got home, had a couple of days off, got on the grass, was happy to get on a faster surface, to be honest, and I feel good. In tennis, you have to have a short-term memory. You have to obviously understand why you lost certain matches mentally. What I could have done better on the court, and that's all learning to get better. So I take it in my stride, and I feel good. Obviously, coming into these next tournaments.
Hey Jack, so what did you? I'm just wondering what you did in those couple of days off after the French. So obviously, we've just been speaking to Carlos, and he has this thing where he always goes to Ibiza. Is that ever something that you feel like you need, just like a few days to just kind of have, a normal 23-year-old guy's holiday and kind of a blowout few days?
I mean, everyone's different. For me, I like being at home. I love going back to the UK, to my flat, or to family home. Like, come back seeing my family. I never get that time to be able to come back home and just to completely relax. I'm someone as well who, when I work really hard, and I'm always on. I'm always trying to improve and stuff. And it's sometimes nice for me now just to come back and just take my mind off everything. I don't really feel the urge to be going out partying and all that sort of stuff. I'd rather just come home and just chill out, in all honesty, and not have any obligations, not think about anything. But I only had a couple of days, so I just used that time to get settled back in, and before I regroup and go again for these coming weeks.
Hi Jack. Last grass court season you did really well in Stuttgart, obviously winning there, and then you beat Carlos here. But I just wonder this time how much your focus is very much on peaking at Wimbledon rather than potentially before Wimbledon.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's no secret. Obviously, I'd love to do amazingly well this week, but Wimbledon would be a priority for me. I think it's always an interesting one, that first match or first tournament on the grass. There's a lot of players who maybe aren't amazingly prepared. We just come from a surface where we're grinding out points, having to win the point 7 times on the trot to get 1 point. So coming onto a really fast surface, it's obviously the margins are quite small. But I feel good, and I'm ready to compete hard as possible. Obviously, it is a home tournament for me as well, so that's added motivation for me to do well here. But for sure, Wimbledon would be where I want to peak the most. Yeah.
And just a word on the women. Obviously, it's women's final day today. We heard that there were some concerns from some male players about the quality of the grass holding up for 2 weeks. But what are your thoughts on women's tennis returning here?
I think it's great. I mean, I think it's great that they're able to play in London, be at Queen's. You know, it's definitely something I've heard the British players say over time, that they'd love to play at Queen's, and I think it's been really nice that they've been able to play here, because honestly it is one of the best tournaments on the men's circuit. I think it's been voted #1 for many years, and I think in terms of the courts, I mean, when the men play on it that first week, it gets very slippy as well, so I'm sure the courts are going to be fine. It might be even nicer for us actually, having the court a bit played in. But no, I've been watching the women's all week. It's been great to see the level of play, and I think it's a really good thing, and I hope they keep it going here in London for sure.
Hi, Jack. This year we have the Andy Murray Arena.
Yep.
So, yeah, can you talk a little bit about the importance of keeping Andy's legacy going?
Yeah, I just can't get rid of him, clearly. No, he obviously a huge inspiration to me. You know, I remember coming here, watching him play when I was very young, had a photo with the trophy. Obviously watching him play Wimbledon, and just the legacy he leaves behind is massive. You know, obviously won here 5 times, I think. And hopefully I get to see him a little bit over this period, but you know, he's obviously not got to see him around loads. But I definitely, you know, I'm looking back over old videos of him playing, and always very inspired by him. So to play on his court, I think it's a great thing they've done that. And yeah, I'm just looking forward to seeing him again. It's been a while.
Hi, Jack. Antonio Guarana from La Repubblica. I just wanted to ask, as you are very good friends with Yannick Sinner, you trained with him, if you have been in touch with him after the Paris final? And secondly, if I may, how proud do you feel to be basically the main contender here against Carlos for this tournament? Thank you.
Sorry. Yeah, in answer to your first question, I actually I was going to reach out to him, but I think, you know, it's one of those where as a player, you know that after a big final, you're going to have a lot of messages, and I think sometimes that can be a little bit, even though it's really nice to get support, I think it's nice to also understand that they're going to have to deal with a lot of messages, a lot of things going on, and you know, I'll give him my support for sure when I see him. I'll tell him how amazing he did, how proud I am, and how you know, he's going to go and win that title many more times, I'm sure. So I think even though someone lost in that match, it was an incredible match and something that's going to go down in history, and he's going to be a part of that. And yeah, I'm obviously very proud to be here, to be the #2 seed. You know, I've come a long way since I played Yannick here in 2021. And I'm really, really proud of the position I'm in, and how my tennis is improving, the team I've got around me. And, you know, those 2 guys are really setting the way, like I said, so I look forward to, you know, chasing them down and really working as hard as I can to get to the point where I'm, you know, with them.
Jack, I'm over here. Hello. Sorry. You mentioned that final last weekend, like your mates who weren't even really into tennis talking about it. How exciting is it for you as someone who's part of the top of the game to have events like that, dragging tennis kind of over and above even other sports, especially as someone like you who, well, I'm sure you'd like to make it another big 3. It feels like the first time since the Federer, Nadal, Djokovic era that we've got this focus on the game again. Yeah,
for sure. I mean, I think, you know, the tennis is in a really good spot in the way that the depth of especially the top 100 is extremely strong. You know, everyone's so good, and maybe 5-10 years ago, maybe the top 10 or the top 20 was a bit more stacked. But having those 2 guys, especially, who are being incredibly consistent, showing that level at the top of the game in the biggest tournaments in the world, and dragging, like you said, more attention to the sport, that only helps them helps players like myself, helps the game in general to keep on moving in the right direction and keep developing, because obviously, yeah, the spectators would feel it, but the players feel it as well when we haven't got, say, Rafa or Roger or Novak, Andy in the changing rooms. You know, it's a bit different, but having players who are asserting themselves, you know, almost in that league, I think that's amazing for tennis. And like I said, that's going to create hopefully more of those, because we're going to keep on improving. They're going to make us better, and we're going to hopefully keep producing more great players and great level.